Hello and Namaste. Welcome to the Mousham podcast. Today we have a very special guest, the most admired Irishman in Nepal. He's a cricket broadcaster. Nepali fans call him Taklu Dai, the one and only Andrew Leonard. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Well, what an introduction, Mousham. Great to be with you. Namaste, everyone. And well, it took you, about 10 seconds to get the Taklu Dai shout in. So I'm
I had to put in somewhere, and you knew it was coming too.
Well, I adore my nickname in Nepal, so I'm very happy you got that in there, and something I'm really proud of. I'm starting, even by like my Irish cricket friends, to get called Taklu Dai now.
Which do you like better though? Is it Andrew or is it Taklu Dai?
Nobody ever really called me Andrew. And in fact, that was, I suppose, something since my kind of life in Nepal has started.
So Taklu Dai was not something that we give to you? Nepal give?
No, it was 100%, but nobody ever really called me Andrew because everyone called me Lenny. So yeah, Andrew, Leonard, obviously, Irish people are big in their nicknames, and kind of cricket in particular is big on their nicknames. So yeah, I was always Lenny or A Leonard or Len for short.
And now Taklu Dai.
And now it's Taklu Dai. Yeah, I still get called Lenny plenty, but like, Andrew was kind of almost when I went to Nepal and people would call me Andrew. I know it's my name, but I just didn't get called it a huge amount. So yeah, very happy with the Taklu Dai shake. Very fond of it.
Aren't we so creative with nicknames, Andrew? Who would have thought Nepal would name him Taklu Dai?
I don't know, but since it's been baptized upon me, I've really taken to it. I adore it because something that some people don't like. You've got beautiful hair. Let's get that out there before we even start. You have the most wonderful hair.
Well, and I would say the same to you as well.
but I love being bald, and it's like, I guess, actually, maybe it's taken me a little while to get to that point in my life where I'm like, well, actually, you should embrace what you are. I never even when I had hair, I used to shave it to like a blade 1 or a blade 2, because when I played my sport, I like to, just keep it short. But yeah, then kind of my paternal or maternal father or whatever that dictates your genes meant that I was going bald.
So how long have you been bald, actually?
Oh God, I've got some good photos I could show you of me with hair in my early 20s. And then I used to dye my hair quite a lot. It was kind of the cool phase where Eminem and the blonde and the peroxide stuff. So that probably advanced the balding and made it happen a lot more rapidly. But yeah, I don't know, mid-20s, probably late 20s it started to recede. And then there was one point where I started trying to grow it back. I was like, oh God, this isn't coming back. And it was kind of starting to disappear down those bits. But yeah, then I used to always blade zero it with a kind of razor. And now I just wet shave it with an actual kind of face razor. Yeah.
For me, I cannot imagine you with hair, Andrew.
Somebody did. Nepali people seem to love memes and kind of funny stuff on the internet.
Yes.
Somebody, I don't know how they did it. They did like it was a face app or something. They stuck not just hair on me, but like a really long piece of hair.
Oh my God.
In a photo where I was holding it was a really great photo with Rohit Powdell holding the ACC trophy that helped them qualify for the Asia Cup for the first time. And it was just the most ridiculous photo. And even as I saw it, like other people were like, oh, that's great. You should have that. I was like, my God, thank God I'm bald. Because I don't know, it's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
No, I mean, if you were of darker skin, I think your name would be Kalidai, or maybe a Kaludai.
Kaludai, talk me through that.
A Kalu would be a darker shade of color. So if you were a darker complexion, then probably would name you Kaludai. If you're a little fluffy and fat, considering that you have hair though, because the hair is still dominant here. If you're quite fluffy and fat, we'd probably call you Mota Dai or something. So we're very easy about naming things. It's so obvious.
We asked, we were up in Canada last month. We're in Texas now, obviously, here for the Cricket World Cup League 2 series, Canada, Oman and Nepal. And we had, for the T20s, Matt Bonner come in, who's a former NBA player who actually played here in Texas for the San Antonio Spurs, won 2 NBA titles, and he came in, he's a broadcaster up there, didn't know anything about cricket, but the Nepal fans really took to him because he really liked the way the Nepal team played, their energy, their athleticism, their brilliance. And the Nepali, one of the Nepali fans got in touch with me and baptized him the Lambu Dai.
Because he was tall.
He was 6'11".
Wow.
Yeah, so the Lambu Dai was the perfect shout, and I think somebody used your phrase there the other day for Peter Della Penna because he's a little bit more rotund.
Okay.
And then Aman Patel, who I'm commentating here with, can't remember, it was like the little brother or the skinny Dai. I can't remember the word in it.
Ochodai,
Something like that. Yeah. I think it was Bai for him because he's a bit younger. He's only 21.
He's only 21.
But I think that I don't know how we started down this topic, but I think that that sums up the beauty of Nepal really well, and I guess the openness and the joy and the love that the majority of Nepalese people.
In a very simple things too, I mean, it's all the compliments. That's how we make you our own. Like Andrew, the Taklu Dai, aka Taklu Dai, is ours. It's part of our country. It's part of our culture.
And that's a great honor. It genuinely is. And I remember, it's ridiculous. I think I've told this story a couple of times before, but about 2 or 3 years ago on social media, there was genuinely a bit of outcry between just a couple of different sets of fans saying, stop calling him Taklu Dai, it's disrespectful. And others going, no, like we're trying to be fond and nice to him. And I had to come out and actually put up a post and a statement and say, guys, I love it. Honestly, it's such a term of endearment for me. I love being bald. I love being part of Nepal. Nepal is a huge part of my life now. So yeah, it's Taklu Dai. It's here to stay.
No, I really, thank you for accepting it with the entire heart. But yeah, I can see how people can be divided. Like call him Taklu Dai or don't call me Taklu Dai. But then hey,
I promise you, I love it.
Yeah, Taklu Dai. Andrew Leonard is not Lenny, not Andrew. Taklu Dai, right? But Andrew, I mean, an Irishman, a former cricketer, leg spinner. I mean, your Twitter now X has the second best leg spinner as well.
No longer no longer the best leg spinner in Ireland.
Yeah.
Did have a bowl yesterday at the ground. I don't know if you can see that. I haven't had a bowl in about...
Is it swollen?
Long, yeah, you can just see the...
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So I had a bowl with Kushal Bertel and Kushal Malla really bowled for about 40 minutes after the game, but I probably only bowled 8 or 9 overs. You're just talking all things leg spin, wrist spinners love. But I haven't bowled in so long. Look, the callus is built up there.
I see that actually. So how was that journey from, you being a cricketer from Ireland to now to Nepal at Taklu Dai? Like, I don't think you can predict or even write that story. Because for a lot of people too, Ireland would be a country that many Nepali might not even have heard about until Andrew is from Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think it's the best way to describe it. You could never have predicted or written the journey that has brought about for me to be, for a massive part of my life now to be about Nepal and a country that I think even calling it my second home, which I do, doesn't actually do justice to how much it means to me. I think it's the most special country with the most incredible people. I adore every single one of my trips there. I've been there over 30 times now. I'm desperate to get back. I haven't been back since March or maybe April this year. And I always feel like there's something missing in my life when I'm not there. And it is a story you couldn't have scripted. The way it came about, I went from a player to be a coach, to be an administrator, and then very accidentally ended up in commentary. It was never my intent, even though I do genuinely feel now, and I'm comfortable saying this now, 6-7 years into commentating, that I feel like I've very much found my calling. I feel like I was kind of born or destined to be a commentator, to hopefully inspire people into the sport that I love. I think it's one of the great gifts that we have in our life to, get this special sport that is intoxicating. It's confusing at times. It's elongated in some of its formats, but it is beautiful. It's joyous, and it's so special. And it's more to it for me than any other sport in the world. And I think for anyone who truly understands it, eventually, once they get into it, they get obsessed over it. They turn into a badger or a tragic like I am. So yeah, it was that first trip in 2018 for a franchise league. Kevin O'Brien is the guy I've got to always thank. He's actually now one of the head coaches in the upcoming Nepal Premier League, which is really exciting.
Wow, that's exciting, yeah.
He's desperate to get back to Nepal. He loved it as much as I did. Oh God, is it Janakpur? I think it might be. No, excuse me. It's Bharatnagar.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Bharatnagar. Sorry, Janakpur is the Bolts. Yes, it's the Sandy Plamachani kind of marquee player side. I'm pretty sure it's Bharatnagar. I'll probably get this wrong and we'll get a load of abuse on
Kevin.
No, Kevin. I'm 99%. I'm going to back myself. It is Bharatnagar. There's 8 teams, so there's plenty of teams. Or they're still kind of all, you're learning your brands. They've just signed Martin Guptill, actually, which is a big addition for the league. But he himself and Paul Sterling got signed in this league. I'd just done my first full year of commentary in Ireland, including my first televised internationals, which was Afghanistan, Ireland. And I got invited to come out thanks to Kev, because Kev was chatting to the league owner and he said, what are you doing for broadcast? And like everything in Nepal at that time, it was a little bit last minute. So 3 or 4 weeks out from the event, the guys who organised the event were saying, oh yeah, we got it all sorted and we're going to bring these guys in, but they hadn't actually finalised their commentary panel. And at that point, they were planning to do it half in Nepali language and half in English. But then as the tournament went on, they said, actually, no, for this to be a proper international tournament, it has to be all in English. So I was kind of brought in as one of the anchors alongside some other quite novice and inexperienced commentators. And there seemed to be this genuine, and I can't really put my finger on it as to anything more than my love for cricket matched the average Nepali fan's love for cricket. And it's a very genuine love that Nepalese people tend to have for cricket. And I adore the sport. And that comes across, I hope, in everything that I do, my passion for the game. And it seemed to be very immediate. I think one of the things that helped was that the producers, they kind of quite liked the fact there was a Western guy involved in the broadcast, and they would send me up into the crowd.
We love Western people. We love not Nepali people on the cricket field.
Exactly. And they would, I suppose that was one of the things that I mainly did. I think a couple of the guys in the team, Navneet and Francis Mackay and they might have done a little bit of it, but it was mainly me going up into the crowd. And I kind of loved it because it was
What was your first impression though? I mean, going to Nepal and then now you are on the cricket ground, you are like seeing all these fans just looking at you. Like, what was that impression like, Andrew?
I guess Irish people were brought up to be pretty level-headed. We never judge or kind of think we're better than anyone. We're very grounded and very level, I would hope. And then certainly that's the way I was raised. Nobody, like in Ireland, one of the things we're proud of is that, it doesn't matter whether you're the dustbinman or the cleaner or whether you're the Prime Minister. We treat everyone the same. And actually so much to the point that it's quite famous that, really massive Hollywood celebrities come to Dublin or comes to parts of Ireland to get away from the madness of kind of people wanting selfies. Yeah, because you're just another person in the street. And if I go on a slight tangent for one sec, one of my best friends, he's married to an Australian woman now, and he brought her to Dublin for the first time to meet his family. This was 15 years ago. And they all went for a Sunday lunch down at the local pub. And it was her first day in the country, and they're there having a big family meal. And John, my friend, says to his now wife, at that point girlfriend, he says, "Oh, that's the Prime Minister over there in the corner." And she said, "Oh, very funny, Oh, the Irish people are making fun of me in front of, the new family." And he goes, no, that's literally, he's having a pint of Guinness, that guy in the corner. And there's no security around. That's his Sunday tradition. He just happened to live in the same part of Dublin that the Prime Minister came from. And there he was in the corner.
So that is more ingrained in the culture itself.
Yeah, and look, we try to be humanists, but it's not Ireland's not perfect, but we are. I think generally we've got an amazing reputation around the world. That's something we're very proud of as well, and something we massively try to protect. So, to answer your question in a really elongated fashion, what was my first impression? It was one of wonder, really. I was overjoyed to see such passion for cricket, firstly.
Have you been to Nepal before 2018?
My first time, 2018.
That was your first time?
I was always fascinated with the country, and I'd met a lot of the players in 2015 when I worked for the ICC at the T20 World Cup qualifier that was actually held in Ireland and Scotland. And I was fascinated by their story and their journey, because that was very, very soon after that tragic earthquake in 2015. And then, again, I've told this story before, but in 2014, during, it might have been 2013, just as I started in ICC, the Nepal fans crashed the ICC website because there was no broadcast of the game, and we were the only place with a live scorecard.
Whoa.
And there was too much traffic and it crashed our website. And I remember telling my boss, and she didn't believe me. And then I provided the evidence, and she was like, wow.
Wow. Well, yep.
And that always intrigued. I was like, how much love for cricket is there? And my passion, coming from a country that was an associate country, I know we're a test nation now, Ireland, was always for the associate game. And so for that, for them to be so passionate from an associate country fascinated me. And then for Kev to be able to make it possible for me to go out there and commentate, yeah, it was the stuff of dreams, really. And even then it exceeded those by a really significant amount. That first trip there, it was unforgettable. It was manic. I remember we arrived at the ground the night before the first day. There were still people with, angle grinders and sparks flying everywhere, just building the last bits of infrastructure. But the raw passion and love love for cricket and love for the game and just euphoric joy at life, at small things in life, you know, and sport, it is a small thing in life, but it's a massively important thing in life. And it was an immediate love affair, I think, and I will never, ever be anything but eternally grateful for the love I get shown from not just Nepalese people in Nepal, but all over the world. And it's really special.
But how did you find your place in Nepal, though? I mean,
I have no idea.
Is it? I mean, it's kind of surprising too. Like, I know why and I know how, but it's like, how were you able to navigate those directions? How were you able to create this space where you tend to become more of Nepal culture and love Nepali people and know about Nepali culture and just we treat you part of Nepal, right? Yeah. But how were you able to welcome that as a home itself? I'm pretty sure there were challenges. I mean, because we don't really have any culture or religion like in common as well. You know, you're from Ireland, we're from Nepal. We don't even share our boundaries. So I mean, when I started the podcast, I said that you're the most admired Irishman in Nepal. You know, for other Irishmen, I'm sorry, but we might not even recognize you, right? Mm. How were you able to build that? I mean, there has to be something, Andrew.
I don't really know. I'm even the way you're describing it, I'm getting a bit emotional. I think that's another thing Nepali people and Irish people share. We're quite emotional. There's so many similarities to our countries, and maybe, prior to my bizarre arrival as kind of part of Nepalese life, maybe there hasn't been a huge amount shared between the countries prior to that. I know there is quite a nice little active Nepalese community now in Ireland, which is great. They've been in touch with me a bit. But we're both in the shadows of bigger nations. In Nepal's case, you're in the shadow of two massive nations. Two of the biggest in the world. In Ireland, we're in the shadow of the United Kingdom, Great Britain. We have a very troubled history with them. It's a much more friendly relationship we have with them these days. We have a history in Ireland of very much being a developing or a third world country right up until very recently, up until the late 1980s. We emigrated our entire lives. What are Nepalese people doing all over the world right now? Where are we speaking to you? Yeah. We're sitting here in Texas.
We're sitting here in Texas, yeah.
There's huge communities in Australia, in all parts of Europe, in Scandinavia, in Canada, where I was for the last series, here in America. And that's what Irish people did for not just for decades, for centuries. So I think there's an incredible amount that links Irish people and Nepalese people. And it's more than just, the histories. You guys love a drink.
Yes.
You love a beer.
Yes,
you love a whiskey. You love your music. You've got some of the best music in the world. I've got really into Nepalese music. Ireland creates, some of the best beers in the world. We love a drink. We love our music. We've got great writers. You guys have great writers. There's so much that we share. And there has never been, you're asking me how it happened. I don't think there's any way it did happen more than me just adoring a place to visit and feeling at home there. Like, one of the places I feel genuinely most at home anywhere in the world, this includes my own country, where I'm from, originally from Ireland, is wandering through the streets of Lalitpur, going to find a cafe that I adore, to sit down with my laptop, to do a bit of work. I feel absolutely blissfully at home. And don't get me wrong, I know Nepal has real problems infrastructurally. There's issues, there's challenges economically. The fact that people are having to emigrate is because sometimes they're being forced to emigrate because there isn't jobs and opportunities. But I think the potential in the country, and I think there is a self-actualization process for Nepal to go through, like Ireland had to go through in the 80s and 90s, and we started to believe in ourselves. And there's a real theory that was based upon the football teams of the early 90s in Ireland that started to make people believe, hold on, we can actually hold our own on the world stage. And that's why I love the story of Nepal's cricketers. I love what the women's football team have done this week. I know they've lost the final today to Bangladesh, but that victory over India was iconic. The most watched sporting event. I'm no football fan, I'm not going to pretend to be. I adore cricket. But for Nepal's progress and development, I was so heartened to see that, particularly because it was a women's sporting side. I think there's great freedoms in Nepal. I love the family culture and dynamic. I love the hospitality. Like the kindness that I am shown every time I'm there it's truly overwhelming. And I adore being there. And I think Nepalese people should be proud of their culture, and they are. and I think they should be proud of what they have as a country. And there's so much more to it than those who fly in. They don't even spend a night in Kathmandu. They go up to Everest Base Camp, they go on some treks, and they disappear out. And that's not Nepalese culture. Nepalese culture is down the alleys,
down
and through the fields, and meeting the people. And I adore the place. And if that wasn't genuine, I don't think there would be a connection of the kind of scale that I have with Nepal.
I think it's very organic. It's very raw.
100%.
And the culture is very accepting too. We love each other. And when we're talking about the immense support for be it football or be it cricket, these are the tiny joys we tend to search and find every single time. Whenever our team is playing against anybody, we just give our everything to support our team. And you can see that too, be it in Turikel, or be it here in Texas, from TU to Texas Grand Prix. I mean, we have seen everything, and that is genuine, that is organic. And I think our love for cricket and your love for cricket, obviously, that also kind of bridges any gap that may exist, if any.
And there's a synergy there. And as I've learned more about Nepal and the people, I've kind of grown to love it even more. I do try to learn a bit more Nepalese language. It's really difficult.
How is your Nepali language, Andrew?
Probably got about 20 or 30 words. So like when I meet someone on the street and I say Namaste, and they'll say Namaste, Taklu Dai. And I will say Tiksa, and I say Tiksa, and I say Sub Tiksa, and they say Sub Tiksa. I say Ram Rosa. So I've got a bit, but I say Godzap, and a lot of the words I have, like I guess, and I'll be able to say Swagat Dandavad and Swagatam. A lot of the words I have, I guess there's, I suppose, a novelty factor of hearing someone from the West speak a little bit of Nepali. I need to learn more, and that's definitely on my wish list for 2025.
Do you, like, whenever you're talking, like, let's say using the Nepali language that do you just throw out everything that you know at once, or do you just it's like Dhanyavad Namaste, and then you wait until the conversation progresses, and then you are preaching another word?
I know it's going to sound weird, but I think the more I'm around it, the more I can, because Ikdam Ramro. I'll hear conversations, particularly when I'm maybe not involved in them, and I'll kind of know what they're saying. I'm terrible with languages as well. I speak, obviously, hopefully pretty good English. We do have Irish in our country, which you were forced to learn. I was terrible at that. And then I quite liked my French. I was okay at French, but I don't really have a head for languages. It's not like I'm fluent in French. If I've had a few beers, I'll all of a sudden think I'm great at it.
But maybe a French and Nepali combined together.
Well, maybe a bit. But there is this weird thing where I'm there so much that you kind of, and I'll often know, I'll know they're talking about me, if that makes sense. So like if I'm in a cafe and I order something at the counter, and then the boy or the girl at the counter kind of goes back to, I'll hear the few bits, and then I'll know that they're saying something about me, and I'll chime in with a tiny bit of Nepali. And usually what happens then is fits of giggles. They think it's hilarious because they're like, oh, maybe he understood what we were saying.
Oh my God, he knows Nepali.
How does he know? And then you're Taklu Dai, and I'll be like,
gotcha.
Yeah. So look, I'd love to learn more. I think it is quite a tricky language, because even when I go to translate something, I'll often, around the time of Nepali New Year, I'll say Nayam Bursa Kamos Subakamana, and then someone will be like, oh, that's not how you say that. And I'll be like, but it said it on Google. And from what I understand, the language it's not like a equals A in a translation, because a lot of it's kind of quite verbal as opposed to quite written.
There's also like the context of it,
yes.
The words and the phrases and all. But
there's quite a bit of slang as well.
There can be. You're in there. I mean, it's a big language, I think.
Yes.
I mean, I grew up in Nepal. I've been learning Nepali throughout my life. Sometimes I even tend to forget some words just because they can get complicated, actually, because it's not an easy word. Like A is not always.
There's none of that, is there?
Right? And so that makes it a little tricky. And we also have like certain designation to certain people, like to, timi, tapai.
Yes, that's that
as well.
And it's the kind of the bai, dai. You go kaka.
Based on the seniority of it, like for a friend I might say to, or timi. For you, I would say tapai.
See, and I did this podcast with Sky Sports, which was amazing, just before the World Cup. Of all the things I've ever done, it got one of the biggest reactions. It was with Nasser Hussain and Michael Atherton, who for me would be two of the very best commentators in the world.
100%.
Genuinely,
100%.
Easily in the top 5. Anyway, Michael Atherton, who I would have had a bit of a relationship with at ICC, did quite a lot of research prior to this podcast. And he had kind of heard that I do a lot of cricket in Nepal, and I was telling him a few of the stories. And then I think he'd done a bit of Googling, because I didn't tell him about the Taklu Dai nickname, but he kind of brought it up.
Oh, well, it was him who brought that up.
Yeah, he was like, oh, we hear you're big in Nepal and you've got a nickname type thing. And I was like, God, I was even going, how does he do that? But he's such a great journalist. He'll have done his bit of research. So I said, yeah, look, it's a bit surreal, being honest. There is kind of I have a massive synergy with Nepalese fans and been there over 30 times now, etc. And I said, well, yeah, no, they call me the Taklu Dai there. And the two boys, Nasser in particular, got a hell of a kick out of this, thought it was hilarious.
Did you describe them what Taklu Dai was?
I explained. I said it was both complimentary and disparaging at the same time. and that's why I loved it. So it's like, and I think I did the description of, okay, the complimentary bit is elder brother, and then the kind of disparaging bit is the bald man. But I said, well, Nasser, maybe if you can get you over to commentate, sometimes we can give you a nickname. So if I'm the Taklu Dai, you'll have to be the Taklu Kaka.
Yeah.
And loads of people kind of shared the clip, and it went a bit viral, and everyone's gone, oh, that was brilliant. And I was like, because what I think I described the Taklu Kaka as being was the the bald eldest brother.
Yeah.
But then someone else was like, no, you've got that wrong. That's the uncle. It's it's like everything's a little bit opaque, isn't it?
It is actually. Yeah, you just have to find the right context of it, which can be tricky, but you'll get there, Andrew.
I will. I'll keep trying.
We will.
Which is critical.
My plan is to bring you here again, and we do a podcast entirely in Nepali.
2025?
2026.
6.
2030?
Okay, 2030. I reckon I got that in 2030. Give me 2 years. 2026, we'll have a go.
2 years, really?
Yeah, we'll come back.
Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
Do you like Nepali food?
Really like Nepali food. I've done the real hardcore Nawari stuff as well. I could be quite good friends with a couple of the journalists there. The full tally set and all of that. I wouldn't necessarily go for that every day of the week, but I could eat chicken kote momo every day of the week.
Chicken kote momo. Oh, so you love momo?
With the extra sauce.
Oh, yes. The sauce is
when I'm ordering, even if I've never been there before, I'll say extra sauce.
Extra sauce every time.
And the thing I love about the sauces is differ vastly as opposed to which restaurant you go to. You get the kind of quite yellow ones, which are a little spicier. You get the quite red ones, more tomato-y ones. But yeah, I'll tell you something. Kevin O'Brien, Paul Sterling, love the chicken kote momo.
He loves it.
Oh,
really?
I spoke to Kev this evening. He's in Uganda, assistant coach of Italy, and he's so excited. He was talking to me about the players he signed and all that, and he goes, Lenny, I can't wait to get back to have some chicken kote momo and a Gorka beer, or an Arna beer, or any of the good ones. There's so many good beers.
Yeah, one thing I miss about Nepal is the beers. Actually, the Gorka.
Infinitely better than a Bud Light or a Miller Light that you get here. Yeah.
They are the worst.
They're shocking here.
They are the worst. What is the difference in your taste actually for the people in Ireland, the food in Ireland and food in Nepal? Because we tend to eat more spicy food.
Yes. I think Ireland has gone from a country, again, 30, 40 years ago when we had all of our kind of challenges. Still have some overdeveloped challenges now. There's every food there now. The food's really advanced. But, the traditional staples of Irish life, 20, 30 years ago was kind of your meat and 2 veg with a big focus on potatoes. Because obviously we grow potatoes in Ireland, and it's a stereotype.
It's a stereotype, yeah.
It's a stereotype that every Irish person loves potatoes, and they'll say, oh, we don't. But then every single Irish person you ask actually loves potatoes.
They do.
Oh, we love potatoes. God, we love every type of potato.
They just don't want to agree.
Well, no, it's more like it was almost a little bit disparaging. The English people would be, they call us paddy, which would almost, I suppose in the modern day, you'd probably say it's kind of a racial slur, but paddy would be like a lot of people in Ireland we call Patrick, so it would be a stereotypical name, and it was a tiny bit derogatory. You would say, they're the paddies. The Irish people are the paddies. But we always took it in good heart because you get on with it. But one of the other stereotypes then would be, you love getting drunk and fighting and eating potatoes.
Don't tell me that's not true.
Yeah, look, the getting drunk bit would, even in the modern Ireland, would be less so. A lot of the kind of kids I would have coached cricket to would now be in their early 20s. They wouldn't they wouldn't drink anything like the way we did back in the day. They're kind of more into their fitness and their gym, and they're making sure they look good for their Instagram photos. There is still, like, don't get me wrong, people in Ireland still generally love a drink and will take a drink, but it's probably not to the same extremes it was. And you know, the drinking whiskey and getting drunk and fighting thing, that doesn't really happen. Yeah.
So is there any other food other than the chicken kote momo that you like the most?
For me, I love all the cafes in particularly in Lalitpur is where I spend a lot of my time, although I do go to Kathmandu and even up to towards Tamil and, you know, the touristy areas. But no, for me, I've done the Thali stuff, don't mind it. I've done some of the Nawari cuisine where you get lots of the dishes. But like a lot of the places you will go to, even though they're Nepalese restaurants, will serve a kind of a broad spectrum of stuff. So I think you get great breads there as well. I love the naans that you do, the rotis. Anything with a bit of sauce, like a little sort of, not quite a full curry, but you know what I mean, the dipping sauce.
The dipping sauce, yeah.
The bit of bread. But yeah, my genuine go-to, like if I'm in Nepal for 20 days, I'll probably have 14 days of momo.
Of chicken kote momo for 14
It's always the same. And they'll go, we don't do a kote. I'll go,
come on, man.
And I've had the one the one in the soup. What do they call that one again?
Like the jol momo?
Yeah, jol.
The jol momo, you don't like that? Really?
The momo is still nice, but it's that pan-fried aspect that I adore.
Mm-hmm.
And then the way they...
You don't like the steam momos that is not pan-fried?
Yeah. No, I've had them, and I don't mind them. And I've had the deep-fried ones as well. But no, for me, like I've tried them all. I've tried the buff momo, I've tried the vegetable momo. But for me, it's the way they dice the chicken and then have is it like the spring onion or whatever? You know what I mean? The way it's kind of laced through.
The fillings inside.
Yes, yeah, that for me is the one.
Have you done any travelings around Nepal?
That's something I haven't done as much as I should have. And the reality is almost every time I've been there, I go for cricket. And the schedules in cricket tend to be crazy. In 2020, I think on my second trip there, I had a little bit more time in between, and I rented a motorbike and I drove up just in and around some of the hill stations around. I have been up to Chandragiri Hills. Can't remember, there's a hill station on the east side as well of the city. Again, you go quite steeply up. It was a crazy drive. It's where those kind of nice hotels are where people look out over the sunrise. What's that called again? So it's the opposite to the Chandragiri side. It's the other side. And there's a whole kind of strip of hotels, and it's renowned as you get a great view of the sunrise. You get up and do a trek at 4 a.m. Can't remember the name of the place off the top of my head, but I went up to the kind of viewing point there, and I remember it was covered in cloud, so I could see.
Oh, okay.
I drove up there with my motorbike.
So you've mostly been around the valley yourself?
Mostly around the valley. I have been down to Bhattarai twice now.
Pokhara?
Never been to Pokhara, ridiculously. The one I really want to do, if I could take 2 weeks, or maybe that's not even quite long enough, I want to go to Pokhara and I want to walk down a Portna base camp. Because I have heard Karen Casey.
It's not easy, I've heard, actually.
I reckon I got it in me.
I mean, I
reckon I got it in me. I heard it's not like a walk in the park. I heard that.
Yeah, I forgot I was talking to Andrew.
Stop. But Karen Casey did that maybe with a couple of the other players at some point, I reckon 2021, and he showed me the photos and
the stunning.
Oh my God, like it blew my mind.
Out of the world, actually.
There's a frozen lake up there somewhere.
There is, I think.
Yeah, there's some glacial stuff you see. I posted it the other day, we saw the most amazing video of a guy, I think it was on a Porna base camp. Again, I'd have to look at my phone for the exact valley and point he was in. He was somehow getting satellite internet, watching the T20 Tri-Series whilst trekking.
Wow,
okay. And he initially sent me a photo of it on social from him, I think in the tea station or wherever he was, spending overnight in the pitch black and I said, could you do me a photo? Could you do me a favour, can you get me a little kind of photo or a video of you watching it up at a beautiful lookout point? And I've forgotten the name of the exact, it's quite a famous lookout, and it is something like 3,600 metres high. Something like, might even be more, it might be 4,600 metres high. And he's there with, it was actually not my commentary, Peter Delapenna's commentary. A friend is kind of taking the video of him on the phone, and it's like it starts on the cricket and then shows the backdrop. And
wow.
I had goosebumps seeing that.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got to do it. I don't know when I'm going to get to do it because all the times I go back, and then the modern cricket schedule is so insane. I'm on the road 340 days of the year.
Yeah, so it's not easy for you. I mean, you're always traveling
the whole time. But and what I would love to do, genuinely would love to do, is to bring some of my school. I've got a really close knit group of my 10 best friends back home. We're still in touch every single day. We've got a WhatsApp group. We don't see each other as much as we'd love to. One of the guys is in Canada. One of them's in Australia, the guy I was telling you about earlier. The rest are, one's in Cornwall in England, the rest are in Ireland. And I'm on the road full time. So we keep in touch, and we the boys might live a little bit vicariously through me because they've kind of all got kids and families and living somewhat normal lives, whereas mine's a bit more out there. So, they love to hear where I am, but I would love to bring a couple of those boys are quite into their hiking and their trekking. Would love to bring a couple of them, 3 or 4 of them, fly into Pokhara.
You should, Andrew. I mean, you should check your calendar and plan a day as soon as possible.
Well, and maybe, I'm not a big one for doing much on social media outside of the cricket, but maybe that would be one where I'd actually do a little kind of blog every day or something, because I just would love more people to know about the majesty and the specialness of Nepal.
Yeah, we need more of that. And especially for someone from Ireland, we need definitely
100%
the Mr. Nepal cricket. I mean, you're a very recognizable face in Nepal now. Like, how is your interaction like when you're just walking the street of Tamil or around Lalitpur and all, trying to go to a cafe? I'm pretty sure people recognize you. Do you get a discount or something?
I would never ask for one, and even if they offered, I'd always make sure to pay the full and leave a good tip. No, look, I could pretend it's not surreal. It is. It's really, really surreal. Probably the most remarkable nature of it is, for me, it's almost entirely just in Nepal. So, and I'm not a famous former cricketer. I'm kind of trying to buck that trend in terms of being in the commentary box and hopefully being well known for my commentary as opposed to my playing exploits, which were okay. So, if I was a Ricky Ponting, who's a great commentator, or a Michael Atherton, or an Owen Morgan, who's a great friend of mine, who's now a commentator, was a great cricketer, you'll get recognised in all the cricketing parts of the world. So when Owen Morgan goes to India, he tells me he gets mobbed. Understandably, he's a World Cup winning captain. When Ricky Ponting's in Tasmania or South Africa or Sri Lanka, he's going to get recognised a lot and asked for photos. For me, it's, being honest, it's really just in Nepal. And that's, I guess, what makes it all the more fun and unique and surreal. It is really surreal. And again, you talk about my school friends, they get a hell of a kick out of it. They think it's the most bizarre thing ever. So do I. I mean,
if you think about it, I mean, again, an Irishman in Nepal, and he is immensely popular in Nepal, that you go to any place around Nepal, they'll recognize you. That is just an extraordinary story, Andrew.
It's totally surreal. And this last trip I was there in April, I did that. I think it's one of the main chat shows in the evening, the It's My Show with Suraj Singh Thakori on Kantapur or whatever it was. And that, again, I don't know how to equate that to a Western world, but it feels like that's kind of the Graham Norton show.
Yeah, that is.
Or the Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, it is actually. If you, in context of Nepal.
Yeah. So, to go on there to give what was a really fun and a hopefully great interview that people enjoyed was really surreal is the only way I can use to describe it. But at the same time, it's very much just kind of part of my Nepal experience now. From one of the things I do love and is hilarious, it's only really happened the last 5 or 6 trips now. Every time I land at the airport, the guy who takes my passport recognises me. And then he
doesn't check your passport anywhere.
He'll almost always call the other guards, and we'll end up taking four or 5 of the times I've come through the airport, I've done photos. I'd be like you're exhausted, you're just come off, and I think one of the times I was flying in from America, exhausted, looking terrible, probably feeling terrible. But the great thing I would say is that I'm so lucky. I've never had any bad experiences at all. Nobody's ever been mean to me or said you're a terrible commentator, or why did you say this about that player, or why are you biased. There's a beautiful innocence and kindness to almost all of the interactions. And, how can you not take some time of your day to help light up someone else's day? I think that's an honour and a privilege.
It is.
And something that I adore doing. In this February I was there, and I had a friend, a working colleague there, and they came around with me a little bit, and it was only really when I saw their reaction to all of the attention I was getting. So I was like, oh, right, this is kind of, because it's just very normal for me now. Like I'm walking and, you know, you say namaste and they'll want, usually just people want to say, take a photo. But often the thing that gets me, mate, is that they'll tell you something that's very personal to them about why they wanted to say hello or why they wanted to get a photo. And usually that will be a message that will be a very emotional one. It'll be something like, thank you so much for being nice to my country, or something like that. And you know, that
is emotional.
Yeah, and that often will you know, really, you know, knock me for six right in my tracks, because that's
a huge thing to say.
Yeah, and I probably haven't even done that justice as to the scale of those kind of things that people will say to me. And that is everything from a young boy or girl to, some of the most emotional things I've had have been, 70, 80-year-old men or women come to me and say they might not even speak English. And they'll do it through their son. They'll do it through their son or their daughter. And they'll say something in Nepali, and the son or the daughter will say, they want to thank you for what you're doing for our country. And I'll just be like, hold on, man, I can't handle that. Like, all I'm doing is commentating on a sport I love, and I feel really privileged and honoured to be invited back. So, yeah, that is a really unique part of it. And that's something that I'm not sure how many people get to experience in life. And I feel so humbled and honoured to experience that every time it happens. And I don't think there's ever been a time I've ever turned away people. I speak to everyone I meet. And it is surreal. The only word I can find to use to describe it, but I adore it for what it is, and I really hope it never changes.
No, I think you're kind of uniting everybody for this, our love towards cricket.
It's a love of the country as well.
Yeah, love of the country, love of the cricket. Because for us, we're a very tiny nation, Andrew. It's really hard for us to get recognized in any capacity internationally. So,
and I think that's wrong.
I know.
I think you're a great nation.
I know. We are a great nation that we know, Andrew. But then there's someone from Ireland, the country that we have never heard about. Actually,
you don't even know. No, we're even smaller.
Right. You're right. And then there's this guy, and he's all speaking English, talking about our players, our game, and being a biggest ambassador of cricket for us. And now we feel, okay, this Irish guy knows our cricket. This Irish guy knows us. This Irish guy is part of us now. And I think that is how the narrative has built towards all the love and affection that we give it to you. And it's so good to hear that how you have accepted all the love and continue to cherish it, actually. And we hope to see that more, Andrew.
Yeah, look, that's so kind. The biggest thing I always try to do when I'm there and is make it about the boys as well, the boys and girls, the men's and women's team. They are so brilliant. They really are. They deserve more coverage. They deserve more attention. And I get occasional bits of stick and abuse, not from within Nepal, but from the other kind of associate teams. Oh, you only care about Nepal. And that's. I don't think that's fair. I really adore all the associate cricketers. That World Cup that we just had here in June, all 9 teams. Like, I was so proud of the USA boys for what they did, getting to Super 8 for the first time. Papua New Guinea very nearly beat the West Indies, which would have been one of the great upsets of all time. I thought Scotland were exceptional down in the Caribbean. They were robbed really of a Super 8 spot by the rain. I thought what Nepal did in St. Vincent was truly incredible. It really was. Canada beat Ireland, much to my chagrin, up in New York, but I was proud of them. Nicholas Curtin has been outstanding. Aaron Johnson, he got 50 against Pakistan. He was brilliant. Pupadu Dasanayak, a former Nepal head coach, he was involved there. So, I love the developing game. I love what the Dutch boys have done in recent cycles as well. I want the game to grow. I want cricket to be everyone to love it. I don't want just 8-10 countries to love and enjoy it and to care about it. And that's why this World Cup was so brilliant. And, I thought there's never been as much attention on those boys. And I just saw Gulshan Jazz interview yesterday. And I thought, for a teenager to react the way that he has to a bit of adversity, because he was the one who was almost vilified. He was the one that was there at the end against South Africa. Wrongly. Nepal didn't lose that game because of Gulshan Jazz. It was one ball. There was 120 balls where, being honest, they probably should have won the game. But they pushed maybe the best side in the tournament, bar India, to the brink. They pushed them it was heartbreaking.
That was, Andrew, I think it's a good segue to talk about cricket too. The most heartbreaking moment for me in cricket, Andrew, Nepal playing against South Africa in T20 World Cup 2024. We were creating history. That would be the best thing that has ever happened to modern day cricket, Andrew.
Incredible.
A team like Nepal, associate nation, playing T20 World Cup for the second time now. You're traveling to America and playing with South Africa. I love South African team. Actually, it's one of my favorite. I was rooting them in the finals too.
You weren't the only one.
Yeah, but yeah, that was the most heartbreaking moment for me. What happened to us, Andrew? I mean, we were doing everything right. Like last over, we need 8 runs in second ball, 6 ball. First 2 ball dot. The third goes for a boundary. I believe the fourth was a dot too.
And then the 5th was a 2.
And 5th was a 2. And
to make it 2 to win, 1 to tie.
1 to tie. Mm-hmm. A run out, and then we lost the game by a run.
So the natural inclination of any fan is to watch that last ball and think about the last ball. Sport and performances and winning or losing are much more opaque and grey than that. Nepal played the most brilliant game of cricket that day. They restricted aside. If it wasn't for what Jasprit Bumrah and Surya Kumar Yadav did with that catch, South Africa would have won that tournament unbeaten.
Unbeaten, yeah. Unbeaten, actually.
Unbeaten.
We were
Exactly. That's how good that performance was. South Africa had the strongest team they've ever sent to any World Cup, maybe barring the 2015 ODI World Cup, where they were a heartbreaking defeat to New Zealand down in Auckland by the barest of margins. They have had trouble getting over the line in finals and all that. But this team was exceptional, world class.
World class, no, yeah.
And the conditions were helpful and friendly to Nepal spinners. Yes, it was a turning track in St. Vincent. They outfielded them, they outbowled them, they did everything perfect. They needed 31 to win off 39 balls with 8 wickets in hand. You focus on that part of the game, not the last ball. And the problem is that for the average fan or for the person who might just be pulled in to watch for that once, of course, the highlight clip you're going to see is that one ball. And it was a unique set of circumstances. I actually thought he was a bit unlucky. I thought it could have been given as a wide. I thought it would, maybe not that ball, but one of the balls in the overs should have been given as a wide. It was over the head-high standing position. And I thought he was really unlucky with that. And then the unique set of circumstances, de Kock throws the ball, it's into his back. Any player who gets hit by a ball, I think, would have reacted the same as what Gulshan Jah did. They would have gone, well, what's happened?
Yes.
Is the ball dead? Have I just been hit? And then in a complete freak set of circumstances, the ball bounced off his back straight to a fielder.
Yeah.
I think it was Heinrich Klaassen who backhanded it onto the stumps, and Jah was caught that little bit short. But nobody takes all of those factors into consideration. And even then it would have been a super over, which Nepal could have lost. They should have won the game in normal time. Yes, it was still a truly brilliant and iconic performance. All of these things, it's a young team still. It was the youngest average age squad in that entire T20 World Cup by a distance. Mm-hmm. It had the youngest captain in the history of the T20 World Cup. He's an exceptional young leader. I think the world of Roa Powdell. He's a special young man. You can't just go from 0 to beating one of the best sides in the world like that. It's a process.
It's a process.
It's a gradual process. They've never beaten a full member nation before. They will. And fans get impatient. I understand that. And the scale of fanaticism, we saw the crowds in Tudikill. We saw the scale of national pride, rightly, for what the boys there. But that would have brought in some fans who might not know the game quite as well. And that's fine. We want to welcome them. But you can't just vilify that one moment. The next game against Bangladesh, they had Bangladesh 86 for 9. And they let the last wicket put on, I think it was 25. And that just tilted that game against them. They should have won that game as well.
They should have won that game too.
Being honest, if they'd won the toss here in Texas against the Netherlands, they would have won that game too.
Would have won that game too.
And even if Powdell, who's one of the best fielders in the team,
the catch,
if he'd taken that catch, they may still have won despite having by far the worst of the conditions.
Yes, but they could have. And I was watching that game. Oh my God, can we not talk about the World Cup?
But this is the glory and the heartbreak of sport. And this is what makes it special.
Behind the Scene presents the Mousham podcast is brought to you by Namaste Entertainment, Namaste Bar and Grill, Namaste Palace, and Alibaba Hookah Lounge. After party, Mints Alibaba.
And when they qualify for India in 2026, which I think they will, I hope they will, India and Sri Lanka, the next World Cup, they'll have a bit more experience. They're still a very good team. They really are. And what happened then, almost kind of since then, has frustrated me a little bit for the first time, because I love the positivity and the passion of Nepal's fans. But sometimes they can ride the waves a bit too high. When they win, everyone says they're the best team in the world.
Yeah.
When they lose, and then particularly when they've had this little run of kind of quite a few losses in a row, they didn't have a great tour up in Canada in tricky circumstances. It was like, some people were calling to sack Monty Desai. He's one of the best coaches in the world, and he's transformed these young men. And you know, I guess for people to just be a bit more level and a bit more supportive, whatever the results. If I thought things weren't going in the right direction, I'd be a bit more critical of them. But you could tell they were on the precipice there in Canada. They were really close to getting back to their best. And it didn't surprise me at all. They won that the T20 series against USA 3-0. First ever whitewash away from home for them. And then, being honest, they should have won that first ODI against USA. A few reasons they didn't, but they did beat Scotland. They're one of the best teams in the world.
Team, yeah.
Hammered. I think they'll win their last two games if we get played. There's talk of a bit of rain about. They're a fine young side. They're doing all the things right. But they've had to manage and cope with all the attention that was brought on them in 2023 with those historic runs. They've had to manage that. And a little bit of that management process is the stuff off the field. Before, they were really only thinking about the stuff in the field. So part of that is part of their maturation process, part of their growing up. And I think they're such a fine young side. I still think they can be one of the best associates in the world. I think they can beat Test Nations on their day. I said that they would win and beat a Test Nation for the first time in that World Cup. I stand over that, even though I've been proven wrong. Look at those two performances. And they were robbed by the rain down against Sri Lanka. They might have beaten them. They're a wonderful group of ambassadors. They're great. I've never seen a group or a team in any sport work as hard. They finish a game. They hammered Scotland the other day, and they all went out to keep training. It's incredible. They're inspirational. They deserve your support and love, and I know that's what the vast majority of fans give them. And I know it can be frustrating when they have, I think it was 7 months without an ODI win, and there was a period there of 10 or 11 games without a win. But you're playing against South Africa. You're playing against Bangladesh. You just got to stay behind them no matter what.
So, what do you think about Nepal's performance overall in the World Cup? What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was...
What are the things that Nepal can do better, and what are the things that you saw Nepal do better than expected?
I thought it was very representative of how good they are. And I mean that in a positive sense.
I was surprised and shocked, when I saw them play that good, actually.
Didn't surprise me an inch.
I mean, yes. I mean, thank you, Andrew.
Not even an inch.
Thank you. I think I should have more faith in my players.
You should.
I think I should.
They are incredibly talented. And they're still learning, and they're still young. So I'm not saying they're the finished article. They're not. But it's more exciting being, and that's what Monty Desai said when he first came in. And one of the things that Monty's had to manage, I feel, he's a very close friend of mine, is that he came in and had immediate success. But there was an element of luck to that. There was an element of, he was the right man at the time to bring everyone together. There was a few political things going on in the background. So he brought everyone in together, and his only focus was on creating a happy dressing room. And the results went the right way, and everything kind of, it sort of gathered, the Rolling Stone gathered everything, and it just gathered that momentum, and they ran with it. And then they were, they probably weren't perfect in the Cricket World Cup qualifier, but they had their moments. Kushal Bertel got 99 against Zimbabwe. Gulshan Jah came in and bowled with real fire and pace. Like the world-class commentators I was there with, and I'd talked these boys up to them, they were going, well, fair play, Lenny, actually these boys are seriously talented. Dipendra Singh Airi, for me, is a world-class talent. I really don't think there's a better fielder in the world than him. He's electric to watch. There's little things that people don't know. He played with a really hurt ankle all through that World Cup. He was operating at about 80% at best. He had to play because it was a World Cup. How could you not?
How can you miss that?
Heavily strapped. I think it was his right ankle. Heavily strapped. He wasn't moving anywhere like as fluently as he can. But yeah, look, I think their potential is still huge. There's a couple of areas they're missing in. They're missing some tall, really quick, fast bowlers. Again, you just think of the nation of Nepal. Your average height is not as much as other countries. You need to find some 6 foot plus fast bowlers, and that's not going to be easy. You need to find bowlers who can come in and hit the deck. You need to find some big hitting batters in addition to, your Dipender Singharis, your Kushal Mallas. Gulshan Jazz a great find in that regard. But the overall enthusiasm, the energy, the passion, the quality around the squad, they're a great group of boys.
What are the opportunities that you see with Nepali cricket?
So look, I think the stated aim, Paris Khadka has been pretty clear on this, is to try and dominate associate cricket now, to really push up. There's no reason why they can't be the next test nation. I think because of the politics and the way that things work in the ICC, if countries are going to ascend to test status, it'll be in a pair. So it would be kind of one Asian nation and one non-Asian. So the job for Nepal to do is you only kind of can do that by firstly fulfilling the criteria for test status, which includes men's and women's teams beating full members on the field. They've got to start to find ways to do that. And that's to generate more fixtures at home. The great thing is, because of the passion and the fanaticism there, they can run equitable cricket. What that means is they can put on series that either make money or at least cover their costs. A lot of countries can't do that. Scotland just brought Australia to Edinburgh for 3 games, which was an amazing occasion. I was there commentating. They sold out all 3 games at about 2,500, 3,000. They just about broke even. For the Netherlands, who hosted Pakistan the year before, they lost money during that series. So I think in Nepal it would be different. If you brought any of the test nations, there hasn't been a full test nation come to Kathmandu yet. The West Indies A have been there, Ireland A have been there, the Irish Wolves side, Zimbabwe A have been there. But if you brought proper full T20Is or ODIs to the TU, that place...
We have a venue?
...would be packed.
TU would be packed for sure.
Packed.
But do you think we have a venue to host the international cricket?
Well, it's already accredited. It's already hosted ODI and T20I cricket. And I can tell you something from my experiences chatting. I wasn't there for the West Indies A series. I was doing... What was I doing? Ireland, Pakistan and Dublin. From speaking to the Irish players that went, the Zimbabwe players that went, they adored it. The players that have come in for franchise leagues from the likes of South Africa, Kesrick Williams from the West Indies, they love it. The facilities are, yes, aspects of them are rudimentary compared to, a Lord's or an MCG. Of course it is, but the fervour and the love for the game overrides everything. Players want to play in front of fans. How could you not want to go to Kathmandu? And every single player that I meet there, I'll kind of almost end up as a bit of a de facto travel guide. I'll show them the good spots. I'll show them Blackbird in Tamil, or I'll show them my Kairos Cafe in Lalipur. I'll show them all my favourite little haunts. They love the city. Most players enjoy having a beer occasionally in the evening. Plenty of good places to have a beer in the evening. They'll love listening to a bit of live music. If you go to in what's the main place, Trisara there in Durbar Mark.
Yeah.
Sit in there, listen to a bit of live music, watch your cricket on the television, have some chicken kote momo. What's not to love?
I mean, it's a fun city. But for our player itself, Andrew, it's not easy to be a player of a national team and then just live it like professionally, follow the cricket as a passion, and then play for a national team and be able to sustain your life too, even for the players. What opportunity do you see for our player, for a Nepali player, in context of world cricket and their participation in the same? I mean, we have IPL, of course, but then again, now there's NPL happening in Nepal too. But what other opportunity that you think our players can capitalize best, and how?
Well, I suppose that's where the big difference. If we look at just the elite players in and around the national team squad, men's and women's now are on full-time contracts, and I think what Paris Khadka's done alongside the new boards and all the elections, he's put a real focus on more cricket at more levels, with more professional players and more opportunities. And that has been really transformative to the point where I don't know the exact figures, and I always get confused with my crore and my, what's the other one? What's the crore and lakh? I always get confused with the lakh and the crore. So, and again, the exchange rate seems to vary, but they've gone from what was a pretty reasonably paltry amount per month to a very good solid living wage. In fact, well in advance of that for many people. They're really well paid now. So that's, the players in and around. Nepal Premier League's going to add to that. And again, I'm gonna get the figures wrong, but somebody they'll be able to look it up. It's there was guaranteed minimum amounts for each of the bands, player D, C, B and A, and even I think even the as low as the C and the D bands are getting good amounts of money that would help sustain them and advance their professionalism. And then for the very best, your Dipendra Singharis, your Sandeep Lamachanis, your Rohit Paudels, they're getting opportunities overseas in other franchise leagues. So there would be no worries from my end about, if you're a parent who's got a 15 or 16-year-old who's desperate to get into their cricket. My God, I would give anything to be 15 and 16 again. Maybe change my country from Ireland to Nepal and try and bowl my leg breaks.
And be the former second best spinner again.
Well, I would only be the second best to Sandeep Lamachani, I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
And probably third best to Kushal Bertel.
Was our team missing Sandeep Lamachani during the tournament? Was his absence felt in any way, any capacity?
Do you mean during the World Cup?
During the World Cup, yeah.
Yeah, so...
And do you think that would have made any difference?
It's obviously been much publicised what's happened, and gladly, I think for everyone, Sandeep in particular, of course, that's well in the past now. So the issue was, I remember I got so many messages about it saying, please sir, say something about the Sandeep Lamachani visa situation. I was like, I'm not a politician. I can't compel the US embassy or the US government to allow a visa. But again, he's here now, so the timing of it was obviously unfortunate, because at the exact point when kind of everything was coming to a close and he should have been able to be allowed to travel again, it was right around the time he was trying to get that. So he was able to get a visa to get into St. Vincent, which is where the other group games were. He actually only ended up missing the one game. The Nepal games were supposed to be in Texas and then in Florida for the second one. That was an amazing occasion where well over 10,000 Nepal fans came, did not watch a ball of cricket, and they danced and they drank and they sang in the rain.
I think I saw some of the videos where they were interacting with you.
It was incredible. That blew my mind. Texas with 7,200 blew my mind, and then Florida. There was an impromptu gathering. The police actually gave up trying to get them to leave because they were all under the clock tower outside the stadium, and they all sang the national anthem together. It was spine tingling. It was utter, and it was like this. Again, coming of age or this self-actualization of what we are. We're almost entirely immigrants, almost entirely American or Canadian-based people, although I did meet a fan who flew all the way from Australia. I did meet a couple of fans who flew all the way from Nepal. But generally, 95% of the Nepalese fans who were there were, immigrants who were making their second home here. And for them to be able to wear their national colours, to fly that beautiful flag, and to feel a sense of belonging in their new home, even when the team didn't get to play, that
was something.
That blew my mind. But to answer your question about Sandeep, it's just the one game that he didn't get to play in Texas. Would he have made a difference? He always makes a difference. He's that good a bowler. It's a hypothetical. Would they have beaten the Netherlands if he was there? Nobody will ever know. I'll tell you something though. I thought he bowled exceptionally in St. Vincent. He was getting the ball to drift and turn away. I think, off the top of my head, both his 4-over spells went for less than 20 in those two games. He might not have got a load of wickets, but he was close to unplayable. He was exceptional.
So that was, so we definitely were kind of missing him. And now I think he's back to US, right? Is he playing again?
Yeah, so he missed the 3 T20s because, again, that was the kind of, just the little bit of a lag to get the visa, but he was here for the ODIs. Didn't have a great day the first day, but he'd only landed a few days before. He was actually a bit unlucky as well. As you can be as a leg spinner. Trust me, I know better than anyone. Some days you'll bowl 10 really good overs and end up with none, and another day you won't bowl as well and you'll get 4 or 5. But yeah, yesterday against Scotland he got 3 for 40 and bowled pretty nicely. I think he can bowl better again. I think there's you can really see him kind of coming to the boil because he hasn't played much ODI cricket of late, of course.
How is the pitch condition different than what they play in Nepal? I think that can be a factor too, I think. No?
Huge factor everywhere they go, and that's a big aspect of Cricket World Cup.
Does it favour our player? Is it
away from home? Not so much, and Nepal have had issues winning games away from home. I felt sorry for them in Canada because the pitches were so difficult, and they weren't just laterally moving sideways, but they were also going up and down. So I think it brought the teams closer together. I thought Nepal are better than both of those two sides. For example, they'd beaten Canada 3-0 at home in February. Then they lost every game, 0-4, 2 T20s, 2 ODIs to Canada in King City. But I felt a bit sorry from there. The pitch is so good here in Grand Prairie that I think the better the pitch is, I think the better Nepal will play, because I actually think they're more skillful than most of the teams that they play against, particularly their bowlers. So, yeah, it didn't surprise me they beat USA, even though USA have had a golden year.
Yeah, they have had a golden era. Are they like ranked 15, just next to Nepal?
Yeah, they're pushing up through the rankings. Obviously, that Super 8 run in the T20 World Cup was exceptional. And they won, I think it was 5 from 8 in the Netherlands, and they really should have beaten the Netherlands twice. And then they won 7 from 8 down in Namibia against Namibia and UAE. So they were the hottest team in associate cricket coming here.
I mean, their World Cup performance was surreal, Andrew.
Amazing.
Like them beating Pakistan. Like, what are your thoughts on it? I want to know about that too.
Yeah, so I actually tipped more associate victories over full members than ended up happening. I thought there was going to be 4, and I thought we might even get more. And when we had 2 early in the comp, when we saw USA beat Pakistan and Ireland Canada beat Ireland, I thought there was a real chance of 4 or 5 or 6. But look, it's a funny thing. A lot of the journalists and pundits that were following the competition said the associates overperformed and they did better than anyone thought. I actually thought they slightly underperformed, because I know how good they are. But I think the big change for 2 years' time will be, so the 8 best associate sides are all in Cricket World Cup League 2. So for 2.5 years, a lot of it was squeezed into like a 2-year period because of the COVID pandemic. They played a load of ODI cricket. So they're well prepared coming to here, but it was well prepared in a different format. This time, the difference is they're stapling on T20 series to all of the Cricket World Cup League 2 series. So when we go to India and Sri Lanka, they won't just be well prepared and have been playing a lot of cricket. They'll have been playing a lot of cricket in the correct format. So if they can adjust to the Indian and Sri Lankan conditions, which will be a challenge, I think we can have even more associate victories in the next World Cup. But yeah, USA were the standout, absolutely, getting to that Super 8.
When we talk about Nepali team and Nepali players, Andrew, do you have any favorites?
I get a bit of criticism for this as well, because they think I adore Dipender Singh Airi, and I do.
Give me a top 3. Start with top 1 though.
I don't think I could actually. I love them. They're like, it'd be like trying to. This is a terrible analogy. Terrible analogy I'm about to give you. It'd be like trying to pick your favorite child.
Oh my God! Are your eyes?
You can't. You can't win. You know what I mean?
But there's always a favorite child, I think. I'm the least favorite child.
I firstly don't think that's true, Mousham, at all. But secondly, look, I love all the players for what they bring to the national jersey. There is, I've always had a soft spot for Kushal Malla. I just think he's potentially freakishly talented. He's a prodigious talent, and he's so young. I think the national team captain, Rohit Paudel, is a special young man. I adore what Asif Sheikh did and does all the time, winning that Spirit of Cricket award as well. He deserved that. For me to be on call for that was a great honour, and that was Nepal playing Ireland, and he was rightly the winner of that award. No one's ever done that before for Nepal. His brother Arif is one of the most underrated players. I love the story of Anil Shah, what he's done to come back into the team. I think Kushal Bertel is a phenomenal talent and a great character. I love Sampal Kambi and Karan KC, the 2 veterans. I love the leg spin of Sandeep Lamachani. I wish I was as talented as he was. I love talking leg spin with him. What Dipender Singh Airi does on the pitch is phenomenal. Gulshan Jha is as fine a young man as you'll ever meet. And I think his ceiling's very high. I think he could go an awfully long way. He might be the first kind of fast bowler Nepal export overseas to a franchise league. I know Kami's done a little bit of it as well. Lalit Rajbanshi is a hugely underrated left arm spinner, and I'm forgetting boys here. I love Dev Kanal. I think he's a huge amount of potential. He's a great young leader. He's a brilliant leader in the Under-19 World Cup. There's a young wrist spinner I really like, who's Tul Bahadur Thapa. Many won't have heard of him. He's going to be in the Nepal Premier League coming up. I think young Bashir Ahmed from down near Barawa, super talent as well. The thing I love about all these boys, they do things the right way. I won't use the exact word, but there's in New Zealand they have it's a curse word, so no something holes policy in their team.
Okay.
And you don't even need to have that policy in Nepal, because they're just good lads who love cricket, want to get better, train harder. Monty Desai's had a big effect on that, but Pupadu Dasanayake before them had a big effect on that as well, and even Dab Watmore did too. They love representing their nation. They're desperate to do well. They train hard. They play the game in the right spirit. Whether they win, lose or draw, they go and thank their fans after. They're courteous and kind to the opposition. New Zealand are kind of the standard bearer for this around the world. And of the Test nations, by a distance, they're the best behaved team. They've won the Spirit of Cricket Award as a team so many times.
I always feel bad for Kane Williamson, actually. They're just not so lucky, actually.
They always kind of seem to miss out on the big moments, but they're what every cricket team should aspire to be, the way they conduct themselves. Nepal amongst the associates for me, and in fairness, a lot of the associates are really well behaving. But Nepal, in a funny way, are kind of like the New Zealand of the associate nations. And look, Scotland are a great bunch of lads. Some of the best you'll ever see. Their culture is exceptional. Netherlands, what Ryan Cook has done there, alongside Scott Edwards, an exceptional group of lads who do everything in the right way. Really like, lots of the individuals up in Canada. I know they're doing it a bit tricky now with the change of coach. Pupadu's gone, which is really sad. Namibia, tough as nails, great culture, fierce competitors on the pitch, very, very good off the pitch, courteous and kind. Like, how can you not love associate cricket with the way they conduct themselves? The Oman boys, Zishan Maqsood's one of the nicest guys you'll meet in your entire life. The young UAE players, Ayan Afzal Khan, Ali Nazir. Like, you think about, that saying, don't meet your heroes. Like, with these associate cricketers, it's the opposite. Meet them, get to know them, because they're great lads. And I'm not just saying this because, like, I wouldn't be saying this wasn't true. They are, like, they're the best ambassadors you'll have, and they're not millionaires. They're not on the money that Mitchell Stark is on or Virat Kohli is on. And that's not saying those two guys in particular are great guys by all accounts. In fact, I've met Virat a few times. Great guy. But, it's not like these guys are overpaid millionaires who don't love the sport anymore. They're doing it for the love of the game and to try and advance the sport. Genuine love of the game and trying to advance the sport in their country. And they're doing that so well against every odd. You've got to remember the funding from the ICC. The lowest ranked Test nation, okay, which would be in Ireland and in Afghanistan and in Zimbabwe, they still get at least 10x, if not 15x, per year from the ICC that the leading associates do. So how they even get out there and compete with the Test nations is remarkable. And that's why Irish people are always going to be on the underdog side. They are the underdog. When Nepal plays Pakistan at an Asia Cup, of course they're the underdog. But my God, when you go out in the pitch, it's 11v11. And one day, soon, we're going to see Nepal beat a Test nation. And there won't be many people in the world happier than me that day.
Mr. Nepal cricket again, Andrew. You've been such a huge ambassador of Nepal cricket. Any player to watch
coming up? Do you mean in
Nepal player, like any player to watch?
I think the one that's on, it's an obvious one that's
on the radar, basically.
On the precipice in the national team of doing remarkable things is Gulshan Jah. There's no doubt about that. The thing that excites me now about the Nepal Premier League is we're going to unearth more Gulshan Jahs, more Dipendra Singh Airis, more Sandeep Lamachanis. And they've been quite forward thinking and quite progressive with one thing that they've done. Almost every franchise league that starts anywhere in the world starts with 5 teams or 6 teams or sometimes even less. Nepal have gone 8. Well, it's quite ambitious, being honest.
Wow.
And you could make an argument against it in terms of it'll shrink the player pool too thinly across the teams and the quality will be lessened. I don't think that's the case.
I don't think so. I think we're a fairly balanced team, I think, yeah.
But I think you could make the argument that it would lesser the quality of the overall tournament because there's, the good players are more spread out. But I think there's a real depth of talent. I was lucky enough to go down and do a tournament in Bhattarai, I think that was 2 years ago. And that was, a kind of domestic tournament amongst a variety of teams. I was a bit blown away, particularly by the scale of spin bowling talent. I have a soft spot for wrist spinners, so I'll mention that Tul Bahadur Thapa. Again, I'd love to see him play quite a bit. He reminds me a bit of Kuldeep Yadav. Mousham Dakal, who shares your name.
Mousham Dakal, yeah.
Mousham Dakal, he shares your name. He's a good leg spinner as well. I think we're going to uncover a few gems. What I'd love to see is some good young batters. Ishan Pandey excites me, the left-hander. I think Rit Gautam is a real talent. He's had some goes very close to the top level, but hasn't quite been able to capitalise upon it. Young Dipesh Kandal, the left arm spinner from the 19s, I really liked what he did. And then the 2 fast bowlers probably to watch, Hemant Dami and Akash Chand as well. Dami in particular is something that Nepal don't have a lot of, that bit of extra height. And by all accounts, Akash Chand trains harder than even the hardest training Nepal national players. So I would hope that at the end of that Nepal Premier League, the Festival of the Himalayas, November 30th to December 22nd, I would hope we might have 4 or 5 household names that people had never heard of before. And how is that not exciting? How can that not be good for them?
Yeah, I think I see NPL being able to produce those players actually, and probably see them in our national team too.
Yeah, and
a lot of talent.
And it's the inaugural edition, okay? So you don't want to place too overbearing a kind of a want on it to be perfect. But they've done a lot of things right so far in the build-up. It looks like the draft was exceptionally well run. You know, I like the branding of all the teams. I love the way they've spread the 8 teams as you go from west to east. So basically the whole country,
yeah,
is almost covered, all the way up to Sudar Bashim in the east, you know. So I think that they seem to be doing everything right. The proof is always in the pudding with this, but there also seems to be a real buzz online and an excitement online, because, you know, it's had a turgid past. We had real difficulties with that other event that was run, which is in essence run by some Indian owners, and it was a bit of a disaster. But this one now, you know, CAN owned, the Cricket Association of Nepal owned, 51% minimum ownership of each of the 8 teams from people from Nepal. Really good move. I think that was mandated by the government, in fact. It just looks and feels like what it should be, and I hope it could be, you know, the first season of a really long-lasting, very successful, probably the best associate competition. You know, real chance for that.
Yeah, are you excited for that?
I think you can hear it in my voice, can't you?
Yeah, really am. Are you going there for NPL too?
As of right now, we're a month out, aren't we? It's the 30th today.
Yeah.
Cannot confirm nor deny, as of right now.
Today is a chance for you to be in that commentary box.
Let's hope. I'll be honest, if I wasn't there, I'd be gutted.
How did you end up in a commentary box, Andrew? I mean, was that always a plan before you started your career as a cricketer?
No, not at all. Good God, no. I was always, people will kind of give out to me and say I'm lying here and say that I was always a man for the background, because I'm now front and centre, you know, in front of the camera. Like, you know, I would have had no active social media presence at all or anything like that. I was always kind of a private guy. I've had to now get onto social and you know, help build the profile to help kind of, because that's something that a lot of production companies will look at when they're hiring for a, you know, I straight from here in Texas, I'll fly to Dubai to do Afghanistan, Bangladesh. And, you know, for them to know who I am, I've got a great relationship with the Afghan Cricket Board now, you know, that they Google you, they look at social media, they go, oh God, this guy's got lots of followers, he seems to do really good commentary. So I had to go down that route, but I really only started that in 2017. I played my whole life, I coached, I mentored, I tutored. Didn't quite make it as a player. I reckon I could have made it as a coach, but I decided to go away from that because, ironically, I felt it was quite biased towards those who used to play it as an international. And ironically, I'm now in an area which is a little bit biased towards those who played internationally. So I went away from the coaching and went into administration. I worked for Cricket Ireland for 3 years. I was then really lucky to get to work for ICC for 3 years in Dubai. And after 6 kind of back-to-back years of working, I was kind of quite tired out as a reasonably young man still. And I'd worked in the sport I loved very, very heavily, like 16 hours a day at ICC. I was not, like, one of my nicknames around the office in Dubai was the shell, because, you know, I was a shell of a man because I was always working. I had the laptop on the hip, and I was looking after digital there in the ICC, so it was 24/7. It was very full on. So I actually resigned from ICC just to go back to Dublin to play summer cricket, to remember why I loved the game so much, just to play some top level cricket in Pembroke in my club. And it was that purely by chance happened to be the first summer that there was any live streams of Irish cricket being done. I think initially of some of the interprovincial and club stuff, and then of the national team as well. And obviously because I'd been away and people had known I'd been working at the ICC, and because I've always been known as a cricket badger, someone who knows all the numbers and the facts and the figures and the stats and my love of the game. And probably when I have a pint, people knew me as a talker. They were like, God, Lenny, would you mind coming and doing some commentary? And I was like, oh, I was quite hesitant at first. I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to be a kind of soft old soul, really. I'm an emotional kind of guy. I didn't want to put myself out there to be criticised. And I thought there would be a lot of criticism.
There's a chance, yeah.
And then I went and did it, and it was the opposite experience because...
Was that a love at first sight thing? It's like, I think I meant to do this.
A little bit, but it was more actually the feedback initially, whereby I thought people would be very critical, but people that I wouldn't have expected to come and tell me that they liked me on commentary. It was kind of universal. I was getting amazing comments from people I didn't even think I would know that well or would like me that much. And they were coming and going, Jesus, Lenny, fair play, you know. You're born to do that. You're very good at that. And it's ironic because now I listen back, but not much, but occasionally I'd go back and watch a clip from 2018. And
do you like it?
And I'd go, my God, I was bad. And I hope I've improved a lot. But there was something there, and there was enough there, I suppose, to...
It's also the more you do, the more you just get better at it too.
It's the 10,000 hours rule. If you don't improve in something by doing it as much as you do. And then there was a perfect storm, mate. I was really lucky because the ICC Pathway events in 2019 started up. They didn't used to broadcast any of these games. All the associate teams used to have to rely upon live scores. And then all of a sudden, 541 games over a 4-year cycle. COVID got in the way a bit and things got a bit confusing and muddly. But that very first year, I got to commentate on Ireland versus Afghanistan up in Belfast. There was a late pullout of someone else. I only got to come in for the last 3 games. And I was really lucky to have my first producer was a really kind guy called Kevin McGee, an Australian. And he was I don't think he actually knows how big an influence he was on me, because I was going into a TV commentary box thinking I'm probably not going to be good enough, having never used the control panels, the earpieces, having never been...
It can get intimidating too, I think, no? Can it?
Absolutely, but just more get used to hearing a director in your ear, a producer in your other ear, and, you know, you're hearing the talk back from the, you know, your co-commentator, the stump microphone. You know, a proper broadcast is a full-on experience. And I didn't think I'd be good enough. And I remember I got to I think it was maybe the end of the second day, and I said, Kev, do you mind, like, I'm sorry, this is my very first TV series. And he goes, what? He goes, you've never done this before? I said, no, like I've done loads of live streams, but I've never done a TV. He goes, mate, you'd never know.
Let's give it a try.
No, he was like, you'd never know. You'd think you're a veteran. You think you've done it loads.
Wow.
And that kind of gave me a lot of confidence to think, okay, actually...
That's a huge compliment.
Yeah. I was not expecting that at all. So that was... And he filled me with a lot of confidence. And then I've been lucky enough now to work on major productions with some of the best directors in the world, the likes of Gavin Scavell, who you know, you learn from every day. You sit anywhere near a commentary booth with. I've done ICC, full events, you know, the under 19 World Cup, the Men's Cricket World Cup qualifier, and, you know, Major League Cricket this year for me was a big break. I adored doing that. I basically do almost all the Irish internationals now. They've got a great suite of games, do a lot of Afghanistan's cricket, and then every single time I see a Nepal fixture, I do everything I can to make sure I'm available for that too.
So where's this love of cricket? Like, how did it grew to you actually? I mean, before when you thought about starting, you know, playing cricket, like being a leg spinner and all.
Yeah.
Like, how did you like pick and choose that thing? Your choices of things that you love, especially cricket.
So for me, there was no background in my family. If it wasn't for cricket being on free-to-air television in Ireland, because we get the English channels in Ireland, BBC and ITV. So at that point in the 90s when I was growing up, cricket was on the television. It was kind of, and we have long summer holidays in Ireland. We've got 3-month summer holidays, a relic of the old kind of farm culture and history that we have in the country. And I'll be honest with you, I saw West Indian guys beating England at something, and I thought this has to be good.
And of course, if anybody beats England, I mean, hello. I'm from Ireland. I might give it a try too.
That was it. And we genuinely, I badgered my brothers. My brothers played a little bit with me. I badgered my brothers into us being out in the front garden, replicating Malcolm Marshall, Curtly Ambrose, Viv Richards, my favourite, young Brian Lara, you know, Richie Richardson, all these iconic Caribbean figures. And there was something of an appeal to the Caribbean guys because of the way they played, the flair, the celebrations, the brilliance of them. But also it was just something that we didn't have in Ireland. We were a very boring, grey, dreary country with not a huge amount of diversity and almost no diversity in the 1980s. So to see these guys go out and beat England and celebrate joyously, that inspired the hell out of me. And we played with we didn't have a cricket bat. We played with a 2x4 in our front garden. Like a little, like a wooden stake in essence. Mm-hmm. So we played with that and a tennis ball. We kind of had made up our own rules in front garden. We played for hours and hours. And I remember, apparently, this is my mum telling me this now. She said, you would not stop badgering us about letting you join a cricket club from the age of 5. And each year I'd get more and more insistent. And then finally, when I think I was 8, might have been 7, but I think it was 8, because there was an under 11 team. And the only reason I joined the club I joined was my brother was in Trinity College in Dublin, and he passed it on the train line. And he said, I think there's a cricket club there in Sandymount, it was only, 15 minutes from my house. And he's like, yeah, you could try it down there. I tried it and never looked back. I will play till I'm in my late 60s if I can. I don't get to play much now because I commentate so much, but my love for the game, it's close to unhealthy. I adore it. It's the greatest game there is.
No, I think for me too. I mean, I grew up playing cricket, so cricket has always been the game that I love and cherish a lot. Even here in Dallas too, there's NDCC, North Dallas Cricket Club, that I'm part of. So we, play every weekends now and then. Recently in Dasai, we had like this Dasai Cup. Our team won. And
get in there.
Yeah.
There we go.
But hold on. And you know what? I did one over, I think it was in the semi-final actually. I did one, I'm a medium fast bowler. And it was a maiden over and 2 wickets under.
There's a double wicket maiden right there.
There you go. And I have been bragging about it to everybody that I meet actually, because.
But like that little bragging, that bit of fun you have with your friends. Like the appeal of cricket for me, particularly because I was small. I was very small when I was younger. I was like 5'4" when I was 16. I grew really late. And the other sports, I played all the sports growing up. I was my junior school, I was the nominated, sportsman of the whole year for the junior school or kind of graduation. I was the guy who won the Gandhi Cup, was Gandhi Cup for sportsmanship. So I was really good at cricket, but I was good at rugby. I was kind of the captain of the rugby team. I loved my soccer. I played all the racket sports, loved my badminton, loved my tennis, really enjoyed squash, was really good at the kind of other skill sports like pool and table tennis and stuff. So I loved them all. But the problem was, as everyone else grew bigger than me and I stayed the same size, I started being no good at rugby because all these guys would just batter me out of it. And the only sport that kind of didn't require that contact was cricket. There was the non-contact element and the fact that I had this kind of ability to be able to bowl leg spinners and googlies and flippers and top spinners to deceive people. And I loved being like, again, playing against adults, bowling these leg breaks that would drift in and turn away and they wouldn't be able to hit them. Yeah. And it was that kind of, and I think that comes from being...
joy, I think.
Yeah.
The excitement.
Yeah, just kind of almost embarrassing the opposite. But it was fun. And the reason for that is because I was 7 and 10 years younger than my 2 older brothers. So again, they weren't bad cricketers. They kind of played third 11 club cricket in the end. I kind of got them into joining and all that. But I was better than them even though I was so much smaller. And I loved that, So
you had that plus point too, I think.
Like Philip,
skills and all.
Philip, my eldest brother, 10 years older than me, he'd beat me at everything. We played table football or pool in our house. He'd beat me at everything. But we get out in the garden and he couldn't play my leg spin. And that was like the little thing that I had over him. And trust me, particularly Philip, Alex is significantly more loving and caring, my middle brother. But my eldest brother took quite a bit of pleasure in, hammering me and everything, even though I was 10 years younger.
Was he a bully or something?
Not at all. But, on the Sabutio table, we were playing like flick table football. He'd beat me, 15-0. And then he'd let me know about it.
Well, of course.
And I was, 6.
He'd probably repeat it every time.
And he was 16.
Wow.
Whereas Alex would be a bit more like, he'll let me score a goal and all that. But cricket was the one where, and even then with kind of Philip's and Alex's friends out in the front garden, they used to be amazed by it because I was this little tiny kid who could, go out and beat them at cricket. And that was kind of, I suppose, what made it so appealing to me. I love the game. That'll never change. Yeah.
I think you've had such an interesting life. Of course, we talked about how popular you are in Nepal, and now we're talking about how you started loving cricket, and leg spinner. I mean, we talk about associate cricket and all. Overall, Andrew, how has your life defined your meaning of life?
It's a deep question. I'm big into my cosmology. There's a guy called Brian Cox who always describes how insignificant we are in the world, in the broader world, the galaxy and
galaxies, yeah,
and the universe as a whole. My outlook on life is one of kind of spreading joy and positivity and being nice to people and having amazing experiences. We're only here once. I think anyone that thinks otherwise is probably wrong. They might be proven right. We're only here once. We're here to enjoy life and spread a bit of joy. And I love people. I love interacting with people of every gender and background and creed. And And I think I'm so lucky I've probably traveled to over 80 countries in my life now, maybe 90. I'm so lucky to have been to so many different parts of the world, and I really enjoy living on the road. A lot of people can't get their head around it. I think you get very intense and short and sharp periods of life with groups of people that you might not be able to replicate if you just lived in the one place. So, if I go to the Nepal Premier League now, I'll spend 3 weeks with Kevin O'Brien, who's one of my best pals. That will probably be a much better quality of 3 weeks than if we both lived in Dublin together. We might see each other once for one coffee in that 3 weeks. I know if I'm lucky enough and people want me to come for the Nepal Premier League, I will probably see him every day for those 3 weeks. And we will reconnect as the old pals who played as 8-year-old versus 8-year-old in Pembroke versus Railway Union when I was the captain of the under-11s and he was captain of the under-11s for the other team. And that, what a gift that is, what a joy that is. There's so much cynicism and negativity in the world. I'm getting to work in a sport that I adore. I'm hugely grateful for that.
Has your state of happiness evolved as you have, you played cricket as a leg spinner, and then you were doing some administration work with the ICC, and then, being a broadcaster and all the love that you're getting from Nepal? Has your state of happiness evolved as you have lived your life?
I think, and it's the same for most men, as you get older, you become a bit more pragmatic about what happiness is. I have had such an up and down journey in my life. I've experienced some incredible highs and some hilarious lows through years gone by in different vices, or in different guises even, sorry. And I think there's a contentment now in my life that I've never really had before, probably because I've found my sense of purpose. I think this is, like I said, it's maybe a bit corny. I think I'm doing what I was born to do. I hope I can promote the sport to a point that it inspires people to get involved with it. Again, I told you about those messages that stop me in my tracks from people in real life when they come up to you. I get a lot of those on social media now. We met a guy the other day who I only knew about through social media, who connected with me, telling me that he's a blind cricket fan who lives in Colorado, and he's flown down specially for the T20s, and he'd love to meet me. And hearing his story about why he loves cricket and the power in the words that he said to me about how I described cricket to him, that was remarkable. I got him to meet some of the Nepal players. Sometimes people get lost in the chase for capitalism. We're living in the state. You're in the States right now. The capitalistic kind of pleasures of, I've got to be a millionaire and I've got to live in a massive mansion. I've got to have the perfect wife. I don't think that's what life is all about at all. I think it's about experiences, and it's about travel. It's about sharing those experiences with people. And my life is I might not be rich in the pocket, I can assure you of that. But my life is so rich with those experiences and people that I meet. And a slight segue for a moment, but I will land in a country, wherever that country is, and I might not have been there for a while. And one of the things I love doing, I go to my WhatsApp and I type in the country code and I look through the names there. I go, I forgot about that guy, forgot about that girl, must reconnect with them. And almost always, particularly if it's someone I really want to reconnect with, I'll land in South Africa. I'll go, God, Eugene Millian's there. Haven't seen him since we coached together in Ireland 14 years ago.
Well,
you go spend a week with you. You might spend a week every day with him. You go and get dinner with him. And it's just, I don't know, I think that's a real honour. And
it's a luxury.
Yeah, real luxury. Yeah. So, and again, I compare and contrast it with that close group of friends I told you about earlier. A lot of them, they're living very joyous lives in other ways, with rich families in terms of rich in spirit, big number of people in and around them, but their lives may be somewhat repetitive. And if my life was boring, I would go crazy. If I was working a 9 to 5, I think I'd lose my mind. But yeah, the path I've somehow ended up on, it fills me with a lot of contentment.
Is there any missing piece, Andrew?
Lots of people occasionally ask me about the wife or the girlfriend. I keep that.
Are you married?
I'm not married, but I'm...
You've never been married too?
No, never been married at all. I did have one really long time girlfriend when I was younger who we traveled a lot together, and we had a blissful relationship.
Is that a heartbreak story?
Not at all. No. It was a very mutual breakup, and she's now happily married. She just had her second kid, and we're still close friends. So she's kind of the closest I ever got, probably. But she may end up watching this at some point because she still connects with me a lot. I hope she'll know the meaning of what I'm saying here. I don't think if I'd ended up with her, I would have been as happy as I am now. And that's not because I didn't love her. I did love her deeply, and I've had other partners and girlfriends that I've loved as well, but it wasn't meant to be. And I think she'd probably say the same with her, where she is now. And I never would have found what I'm doing now without that kind of finishing. So, no, look, I keep my current relationship pretty private, and I don't think that will go public at any point too soon. But when you're on the road 340 days of the year, it's difficult to kind of...
It is.
Difficult to be overly committed.
Any thoughts about marriage, though?
Yeah. People do it all the time. Don't they?
Yeah, I think they do. Personally, like for you, I mean, is there any...
I'm not for or against it. Yeah.
You're just open to anything that life kind of brings.
Yeah, what is marriage? I don't even know what it is. I've got a really good friend back home who has got a 14-year partner, and the partner is desperate to get married, and he's absolutely against it. And he's explained a few reasons to me as to why he doesn't want to get married. But they kind of made a bit of sense. But look, I think all these things...
What if I put you in place of your friend?
I'd probably end up getting married. I'd probably succumb to the... I have had a few requests from some fans to marry someone from Nepal. I've always been very cautious there and well behaved.
Have you ever had any love letters? I'm pretty sure you ever had flying kisses, but...
Yeah. I'll be honest, the vast majority of the fans who get in contact with me are male, although that's changed quite a bit in the last maybe 6-12 months as the game's got more and more popular with women. I wouldn't say I'm in any way a heartthrob. I'd say the opposite. But yeah, there's been one or two funny incidents. Yeah, let's put it that way.
Have you ever been approached for a movie or such? I mean, it's a media entertainment.
No. I did actually. One of the funny things, someone only reminded me this, I think it was my mum reminded me this recently. Back when I was a kid, like, we were so lucky with the school we went to and the background we had. There was, everything you'd want in the school. There was all the extracurricular sports. There was also a real culture of drama in the school and a lot of acting. I was actually the lead in 2 plays and the third lead in a third play when I was in school. And I'd kind of forgotten about those things because I went so heavily into sport. But I was actually quite into that. My mum is a great musician. My brother is a wonderful artist as well, Alex, the middle brother. So there's quite come from a lucky, talented family. And she was saying, do you ever think about the fact that when you're commentating, you're performing? I was like, what? I did the classic son thing. What? What are you talking about?
Makes sense though.
And of course, mothers are always right. And I said, but I said what? I gave it you don't know what you're talking about, mother. Sophia, you're out your element. But she said, do you think back to the fact that you were a really good actor when you were younger? And there was one play I did where I was singing the lead chorus or whatever. I was Captain Cook in the Captain Cook of the Seven Seas, whatever it was. And the microphone had a malfunction. I think either the lead broke or something. Basically, I went from performing with the microphone
to without it. And
again, I was 9 or 10. I don't remember this. This is my mother's version.
This cannot be true.
This is my mother's version of events, okay? But this apparently completely happened. And without even the blink of an eye, I just kept going. And I sung a bit louder, apparently, and completed the whole scene, and you would never have known. And she was always going, you were born for the stage, you were born to perform. And I then got so heavily into sport, I was like, stop telling me to perform and stuff. But it is funny that I guess, I'm not saying, good God, I'm a performer, quite the opposite, but I have total calmness now in terms of, I'll even see some very experienced co-commentators who I'll be doing pre-match shows with at a high level be really nervous. Like their hands almost shaking, and none of it flaps me. And I guess that's because A, little bit of that background of performing, and B, through the experiences in Nepal where often things are a bit more rudimentary and the communication isn't the same, and there'll be somebody coming up to you as you've got a red light saying 10 seconds to go, saying you also need to do this. You kind of get used to the madness. And now if you had, I don't know, we've got 2 or 3 cameras here, but if you had a producer in my ear, a headset on, and you told me to look down the barrel of that and do something, or say repeat these words at 2 seconds after, it doesn't even faze me. There's no like, and that's not to say I won't make a mistake at some points. Of course I will. Everyone does. But there's no, I don't really get nervous about it anymore. I get excited by it. I adore doing it. But there isn't that kind of, I'm really worried, oh God, you know, where do I look, or what do I do, or what if this goes wrong? What if I say that? There's none of that.
So there's excitement driving to it too, I think.
Yeah, but there's a calmness. There's
no stress at all.
There's a real calmness. And there's a great piece of advice that was given, and this applies to sport. This is from a sports psychologist who's worked with the Irish team, Michael Caulfield, inspirational guy, brilliant man. He said, if you're going to panic slowly. And I don't know why that's a mantra that's always stuck with me. And it's so good for broadcasting, because the slower you go and the less panicked you are, even if you're panicked, just do it slowly.
It'll go unnoticed too, I think, in broadcasting live.
Because nothing's ever as bad as you think at that moment in time. Nothing is ever as bad.
No.
You mispronounce your co-commentator's name. You miss-see a player. You say the wrong batter's hit it. Slow down. Correct yourself. Move on. That's it.
That's a really good mantra, actually. But yeah, as I was, talking about movies, I would love to see you in Nepali.
I need to learn more Nepali then.
Name that movie Taklu Dai.
Pretty sure that won't be a movie. I could make a cameo. I could make a little cameo.
Yeah.
I did one piece of acting through this whole weird little journey for the World Cup, where a great friend of mine, Takudai, released a World Cup song. I'm going to get it wrong. Berry Fishwa Mena Cup Ma. It was, we will get our hands on the cup again. I've forgotten the exact Nepali, apologies, Tanka. Brilliant song, brilliant music video with it. And I've got to know him through he loves cricket, he comes to a lot of the games, so I've got to know him through that. Great guy, real talent. And I did a little bit of acting where he sent me like the first 45 seconds as a demo track. And he said, just lip sync it for a bit of fun to help promote it. And I got my friend, I was in Dublin just before coming out for the World Cup. I got my friend to film it whilst I pretended to answer a phone call from him. I'm going to play it for you after we finish.
You should. I want to watch it right now. But
it was so much fun. So I changed my friend's number to Takudai, the name.
The name, yeah.
He called me. He then filmed a thing in his studio, just like this studio. And he said, Namaste, Taklu Dai. How's it going? I said, Takudai. How are you, mate? So I said that to him. And he goes, yeah, I'm very good. I've just finished my first edit of the official Nepal Cricket World T20 World Cup song. I've forgotten Nepali Fero Beshwi Cup Ma. It's like
Nepali Feri
something like that.
Hami, I don't know.
Yeah, Hami. It was something like Hami Feri. So he's like, so then I said, oh, brilliant. Let me put it on. So I like pretended to press play or whatever, and then I've sung along to the 45 seconds that he wanted to kind of release lip synced.
Is that in the intro though?
No, it's like, so it's intro. It's me. It's him. It's me. Or sorry, it's him, and then, it's back to me. And then I press play on the song.
And then the song.
Yeah, it's like a 60-second Instagram reel. It was ridiculous.
I want to watch it.
We're going to watch it. I promise you, we're going to watch it, and you're going to say, God, he's not made up for the acting this. Like, the acting was terrible, but it was fun. And yeah, God, if someone wants to do a cameo in a film, anytime. Be a lot of fun.
Directors.
There you go. Yeah. Open to it.
So,
you can shine my dome up as well.
So one question, I mean, we talked about cricket and then we talked about life and happiness and things. The one thing I usually ask all my podcast guests is the couple of set of questions actually. And I want you to imagine.
Okay.
So imagine a writer is writing your book.
Okay.
How would they be writing right now?
I've got a great close friend back home who always jokes with me, who has written some books, that I'm gonna write your biography. I hope they're...
Is they writing right now?
I think they're writing with a real glint in their eye at the amusement of the madness of my life, and the fun of my life.
How do you think they'll write you in the future?
Oh God, you mean like a legacy?
Anything. I mean, how do you think... the writer will be writing you in the future? When the future is happening?
In 20 years from now?
Can be any time.
I think hopefully in the future they're still writing about an Irish cricket commentator who's trying to... I guess one big goal I would have within commentary would be to break down the barrier of the fact that it's an exclusive enclave of only former international players, because I think that sells short the average cricket fan. I think if you look at American sport coverage, you watch the NFL, you watch the MLB, you will have a quality broadcaster first, yes, and an amazing former player second. And it's not about who's bigger, but you know what I mean? The nature of the broadcast starts with a broadcaster.
It does.
And that's not to say that former internationals are not some of the best commentators in the world. In fact, in my opinion, the very best commentators in the world are former internationals. Michael Atherton, Ian Bishop, Nasser Hussain, Ian Smith of New Zealand, although he actually is known for his rugby commentary as well, didn't play a huge amount for New Zealand. The best in the world. By you know, in my opinion, quite a distance. And there's plenty of other brilliant commentators. I'm not going to, you know, name loads more people, but, you know, those guys are former players. But my favourite commentator growing up was a broadcaster from the West Indies called Tony Cozier, who was, I think, a journalist, and he was definitely a trained broadcaster as well. So I think the amount that a broadcaster can add alongside an international cricketer is huge. I think what I offer is quite a lot of cricket knowledge, because I played at a very high level all the way to the precipice of the Irish team, alongside the digital angle and the modern social media angle, because that's what I did for my life. You know, I marketed and promoted and digitised the game in my roles in Cricket Ireland and ICC. And then maybe that little bit of performer and seller of the game. So I think I offer a beautifully holistic commentary. I hope I do. I hope people feel the passion and the love for the game in my voice. But I would love to help break down that barrier.
Will there be a statue?
Not at all. quite the opposite. But I would love to break down just that barrier. It's only an imaginary barrier of having, and there's already signs it's starting to happen. You know, there's the young kid I'm with here, Aman Patel, is exceptionally talented. He's not a cricketer as such. And because there's so much cricket and so many leagues, and there's more cricket broadcasts than ever, there's more opportunities than ever. You know, so I think what that means is that there's hopefully an acceptance of not just exclusively former players in the box. Brian Murgatroyd is a great commentator who, I don't think he played cricket at any level. He was a media manager for England. Alan Wilkins played for Glamorgan, yes, but he's made his name as a broadcaster, exceptional broadcaster. The best Indian example is Harsha Bhogle. But he kind of came in an era before the former players coming along and going straight into the box. I think there's absolutely a place for it, but I think if you end up with a commentary box of just, let's say, 6 or 7 former players only, it can turn into a little bit of a stale former player fest, which isn't maybe necessarily putting the fan first. And as a consequence of that kind of goal that I have, I would hope the fans would get better coverage. And I think cricket often undervalues its fans. We need to love and respect them and cherish them more and give them more ways to access our game, whether it be in person or on television or online. So, yeah, that's definitely something. I can't remember what the question was.
I was like...
I don't even know what the question was, but there we go. That's a goal.
There you go, guys. I mean, you heard it.
That's a goal. I'm sorry.
But yeah,
I'm a terrible man for going off.
And no worries. Is there anything you want the writer to not write? In your book?
God, how long do you have? I've done a lot of stupid things in my life. They're probably not very well known or publicised. I've been young, very young. I travelled the world when I was a youngster. I was really lucky. Those 10 best mates I refer to know a lot of those stupid stories. It's all part of who I am, though. I don't think I'd advertise them. I don't think I'd want them down on paper, but we did stupid things. We got stupidly drunk in every corner of the world and robbed shopping trolleys and put someone into them and pushed them down the road, and much worse stuff than that. Nothing ever anything sort of criminal, I suppose, at least, but really silly stuff. Lots of silly stuff that I suppose, well, maybe it should be in the book because it's a makeup. It's a makeup of my life, but are they my proudest moments? No. Did they help kind of shape me as to who I am. One of the great things about Nepal's mantra and what Monty Desai says about the boys is we never lose, we learn. So I think even those things, the really stupid things I did, I realised, I don't want to go and get drunk every night of the week now, because I did that for 4 months in Chicago as a 21-year-old. It was great for those 4 months, but I don't want to do that now. I'm happy going 5 months, 6 months without a drink, without one. But then when I see Kev in Kathmandu in a month, if I go to the MPL, I'm going to definitely want to have a beer with Kev and catch up and reminisce on old things. So look, there's too many things to mention that shouldn't go in there, but hopefully they've all just helped make me as the person that I am.
Yeah, absolutely. What would be the title of the book?
I've got to give my mum some credit here, because she said you've got to write a book, and she's given me a title. And I don't know if it works perfectly, but I quite like it because it's quite catchy.
What's that?
And I don't know if you've ever seen the George Clooney movie, Up in the Air.
I don't think I have, yeah.
It's about a travelling salesman who is the leading air miles holder anywhere in the United States of America, and he spends the majority of his life in the air. So it's a little bit inspired by that. She thinks it should be called Wake Me Up in Kathmandu.
Wake Me Up in Kathmandu. Wow.
Which I thought
because it's a very thought-provoking, very thoughtful. I think it fits you perfect.
I'd love to claim it.
Wake Me Up in Kathmandu.
But that's my beautiful, ever so talented Greek mum who thought of that. And I don't know why usually she'd say stuff to me and I'd never remember it. That one stuck with me. Because again, it's just quite catchy, isn't it?
It's very catchy.
And it's intriguing as well. It's like,
intriguing, yeah, Wake Me Up in Kathmandu. I mean, I would buy that book.
There we go. And for me, it would, I don't know, it evokes that. It tends to always be an overnight flight you take in to Kathmandu. Usually they leave, I almost always go via Qatar, but almost all the ones from the Gulf leave at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and land there into Kathmandu at 8 a.m. So I don't know, that one stuck with me. So, look, I've no idea. But if she hadn't said that, I wouldn't have known what to say. So thanks to the mother.
Yeah, I think you should write it, publish it, Andrew. Take your time. Think about it.
Maybe a long way down the road. I'm not sure many would be interested.
Yeah, write in both languages.
You can translate it for me.
You know what? I will.
There we go.
So, Andrew, such an amazing podcast. Actually, we have been talking about everything, Andrew, and more.
Been an absolute pleasure, mate. You're a real star. And just before I know you might have a wrap up there or something, but I was so impressed by you. I know we met first at the Hangout for that official Nepal Fan Fest back in June. And that was an amazing day. And I remember you and it was a pink.
Yes.
It was a bit of an outrageous outfit. I will say that.
It was.
It was an outrageous outfit.
That was best I could pick, Andrew.
Well, it was out there. But this man is an exceptionally talented host, and you're a really talented interviewer too. So sorry, it's just been a pleasure to talk to you. I cut you off.
No, that's fine. No, I want you to cut me off as often, actually. But anyway, before we wrap this thing up, I just want to do a quick rapid fire with you.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
We didn't do this in podcast, but I was like, Andrew is here. Let me do some
you can
rapid
take
fire,
as much time as you want.
Put him on the spot. Why not? Okay. T20, ODI, or Test?
ODI.
A game you'll never forget. A cricket game.
March 16th, 2023, Nepal versus UAE.
Yes.
Maybe the greatest and most incredible game of cricket you could ever imagine. I watched it back a year on. There was a fan.
You were in tears.
A fan got me a 60-minute highlights package of that, and I couldn't believe how incredible it was. I know I lived it and breathed it at the time. That was the single most remarkable game of cricket I've ever seen. I feel so lucky and so privileged to have been there. Sorry.
Your favorite Nepali cricketer? Again. Okay. You have to pick one now. One.
All right, go on then. We'll go with the Tiger. Dipendra
Singh. Dipendra. Lords or TU ground?
Ooh. Lords as a spectator. TU as a commentator. Purely because you get to sit in real plushness and enjoy it. Enjoy maybe a Bucks visit.
I saw you taking a catch there, actually. When was it?
That is true. The Ireland-England Test match 2023. Again, God, you'd need a whole a whole chapter of a book.
Did you take the catch?
I did, yeah.
You did?
I took I'm going to show you the Tank of Timilsina video and the catch video.
And
after
the catch.
This. Utterly surreal. Was with a very close friend in the president's box who invited me up there. He was the chief exec of the PCA at the time. He said, let's keep a low profile for the day, even though we'd been invited into this luxurious area. I was, being honest with you, very hungover after 2 days of great celebration watching Ireland playing England in a test match. My dad and my two brothers were there. It was an amazing thing because my dad is the greatest man ever, and he's just been so wonderful to me. So for the four of us to be together at a test match was extra special. They were in a different box because I managed to get them seats elsewhere. Rob, my friend, only had one ticket for the box at Lord's that I could go with him. It was our first over that we'd sat down in the front row of the box in the grandstand. The first over, because the rest of the time we'd been mingling, doing an air of hellos and handshaking everyone, including the president of the MCC that year, Stephen Fry, the absolute icon of Britain, a British legend, acting and comedian and writing. And it was the first over we sat down. I had just put an orange juice, because I was that hungover, into the actually I had it in my hand. He might have had a drink, I don't know what he had. Curtis Camphor got down on one knee to sweep one. And as soon as it came off the bat, I said, oh my God.
It's coming towards you.
This is coming towards us. I put the drink into there's like these really fancy seats up in the box, into the holster. I went forward to my left, and it was actually ended up over the advertising hoardings beneath me. And I managed to get a really good read on it, and it just stuck. And I got a lot of slagging because I bowed a few times.
You did. I saw the video.
And rightly so, but I would like to say I was hungover. It was very surreal. And I was an Irishman. He told me to wear a suit and a tie and everything. You're in the president's box. And I didn't know what to do. And I was kind of dumbstruck. And then I've looked up and you see yourself on the big screens. And everyone's cheering, because there was a cheer for the six. And then they realise you've caught it. So there's a cheer for you. So then I bowed to them. And then over my right shoulder, Stephen Fry shouts, "Bravo, my boy, bravo!" And this is like a British national treasure.
National treasure, yeah.
Shouting at you over. So I turned.
And Lords.
At Lords. At Ireland are playing England in a test match. It's something I could never have dreamed of. I'd gone there with my dad as a 10-year-old to watch West Indies. It was like the biggest, it was like 3 years of Christmas presents in one for that year. And I didn't know what to do. And then Ben Duckett's given out to me because he wants the ball back. He's down at deep mid-wicket. So I threw it back to him. Luckily, I gave it a good throw straight to him. He was like, come on, give me the ball. And then Stephen Fry's carrying on. Sir Tim Rice is there. So, and I noticed the big screen's still on me. So I said, I better bow to them. So I think I bowed 3 or 4 times. I didn't know what to do. But the best part of it all was I sat back down. And Rob is a great New Zealander. He's one of my best pals. He's a superhuman. And he said to me, only you. This could only happen to you. And he literally said to me 20 minutes prior, let's keep a low profile today. Let's all just, tone it down a touch.
And now you're taking a catch and
on the big screen,
bowing thrice.
Amazing.
Always counting.
You could not buy that experience. One of the funnest and most ridiculous things that's ever happened in my life. Loved it. Loved every second.
Everything of that day, actually. I mean, for you,
The last bit, and it's just because it's my dad. We walked over, we had the lunch then with Stephen Fry, and I went up to thank Stephen Fry because he gave me a big shout out when he gave his speech. He said, we've got Nepal's most famous commentator with us who's just taken the first ever catch in the MCC president's box. It was so kind of him. And I went over to thank him at the end of the lunch. And he said, why are you here? And I said, I brought my dad and my 2 brothers to come along because 30 years ago my dad brought me. And he said, he must come. He's got to come up to the box. So he sent me, it was so kind of him, he sent me across. I went to get my dad. And walked him across. He came up and he had a photo with Stephen Fry. I'll show you that in a second as well. And my dad on the walk across from where he was sitting around the back of the main stand, he was just like, this is the most incredible thing that's ever happened. So special, very special.
Very special. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Best cricketing nation, Ireland or Nepal?
Oh God. Well, look, we're back to the rapid fire. Right now, Ireland, but one day Nepal will beat them. Nepal have never beaten Ireland, so I have to say Ireland for the moment, but one day Nepal will beat them.
Momo or dal bhat?
Oh, it's not even close. Momo.
Chicken kothi momo.
And specifically the chicken kothi momo, yeah.
Coffee or beer?
Don't drink coffee, so that one's easy. If you said tea or beer, I'd probably go tea.
Okay.
But yeah.
Have you tried Nepali tea?
Like of course I have. All of them.
Do you like
it? Yeah, love it. And yeah, really, really like all the varieties as well. And the chai you get with the kind of the milk mixed in as well, like that too.
Virat or Babar Azam?
I'm a big Babar Azam fan. I love him as a human, but I'd go Virat as a better cricketer. And yeah, I've got to meet him a few times, so I was pretty go Virat, yeah.
Okay, I think I have one last question for you. Taklu Dai or Andrew?
It's Taklu Dai, 100%. 100%.
Andrew, it has been such a fantastic time talking with you about everything. Thank you for sharing stories of your life. Thank you for talking about Nepal cricket. And thank you for being the biggest Nepali cricket ambassador that Nepal cricket could ask for. So thank you for being that. As we end the podcast, is there anything that you want to share to everybody watching us, Nepali fans beyond Nepal and all?
Yeah, look, firstly, thank you. And I suppose just a big dandavad. I think the one thing that people might not know, and maybe I don't get across enough, is that if it wasn't for your support, I don't think I would be where I am. And, you know, when Nepal got to an Asia Cup last year, Star Sports did a graphic saying, guess the commentators. And it was, you know, it was kind of miraged images or blacked out images of silhouette images of what was clearly going to be, you know, Wazim Akram and all these guys. The Nepal fans completely hijacked that post. And let's say there was 1,000 responses, 800 or 900 of them were Nepal fans saying, we want Andrew.
Andrew, of course.
But come on, that is, it's truly incredible. And it's something I will never, ever stop being grateful for, thankful for, and I'll never quite get my head around. So, yeah, for all of you who support me and make it possible for me to, I'm now a full-time cricket commentator, which I never thought I would say. Really only have been since the start of 2023. It's a sincere and huge dandavad, and thank you so much. I can't wait to keep doing it for you.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Thank you so much. Next, we'll go for chicken kote mama. How about that?
That's a done deal.
How about that, Andrew?
Dandavad.
Thank you so much. Thank you.